All right, what's going on, folks? JV Wins, Dogon SS. We are back for another video on the Conscious Approach channel. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Appreciate everybody for watching our videos. Last week was a good week for the channel, particularly last night. We gained 7 subscribers overnight, which I know to a lot of the big wigs on YouTube that doesn't mean anything, but we are still technically speaking small fry. So while we are small fry, 7 new subs overnight is a development. And, I always like to say I appreciate each and everybody who likes what we do here on the Conscious Approach channel, who likes to watch our videos, who likes to participate and join the tribe. Please continue to do so as we continue to crank out new content. Um, Let me get my ticker going here before I forget. So we have a current goal to get to 1,000 subscribers. Again, we're small fry, but it's a goal nevertheless, and we look forward to bringing in new people each and every week when we make new videos, new additions to the channel to get people on board, because we certainly appreciate everyone who appreciates us creating logical content. So thank you for supporting logical content.
That's
And
right.
before we get into this video, as I always like to say, please like the video, hit that subscribe button so that you can get notifications whenever new content is published to the channel. If you're watching this video on any of the other places where this channel has a presence, go ahead and share that video, hit that like button, follow the page, subscribe. We certainly appreciate you supporting logical content, man. It's been a blast. Last week was a good week. We were not stymied by the holidays, which was a refreshing sight to see. So, with the pleasantries out of the way, we'll go ahead and get right into it. We are going to talk about Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is he's not controversial. I wouldn't consider him controversial, but he is a sports commentator who has opinions of his own, and oftentimes his opinions, I guess, the abrasiveness in the way that he delivers his opinions, people get bent out of shape about some of the stuff that he has to say, particularly when it comes to certain sports figures like LeBron James, for example. But Skip Bayless is currently under heavy scrutiny because he tweeted something that a lot of people felt was insensitive during Monday Night Football. So, for anyone who does not follow sports or who is not aware, there was a player who played for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills played the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football on January 2nd. And there was a player named Damar Hamlin who went into cardiac arrest during the game. Unprecedented. So it was during the kickoff. He was on the kickoff team on defense. The Cincinnati Bengals were receiving the kickoff. He collided with T. Higgins, who was a receiver for the Bengals. It looked like a pretty mundane hit to me, but apparently it was something else going on. And so Hamlin got up, and after a few seconds, he collapsed. He literally went into cardiac arrest. They had to call the paramedics out there, and they put the defibrillator on him. They tried to they went on to resuscitate him, got his vitals back up, and transported him to a hospital in the Cincinnati area. And the game ended up being suspended. They didn't resume the game. First time that's ever happened, because somebody literally almost died on the field. And so naturally, everybody gets on social media with their, opinions and thoughts and prayers to the families, blah, blah, blah. And Skip Bayless was a part of the Twitter brigade, and he tweeted something that a lot of people did not like. They felt as though he was being insensitive given what is going on. And what Skip was saying in his tweet, and I'll show the tweet once we play this video clip, but what Skip was saying was, no doubt nobody wants to continue the game, but how can they not continue with there being such high playoff implications contingent on the outcome of the game? So Skip was saying, even though people want to stop the game, how can you stop it when there's so much at stake? He was saying that it's got to resume because of what's at stake. People didn't like it. They went off on him hard, to the point that he had to show contrition this morning during Undisputed. So a lot of people had a lot to say about Skip Bayless's tweet. So we're going to go ahead and play this clip. This was a reaction from Steven Jackson, and then subsequently it'll be a clip of Skip Bayless's response to the backlash, which was aired during the Undisputed show the morning of January 3rd, which was the day after the game and the day after he sent that tweet out. So we'll go ahead and play that, and then we'll just talk about the whole situation and, Skip Bayless and the reaction to, his Twitter, to his tweet. And like I said, I'll go ahead and play the tweet as well, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it.
You know what's crazy? It was Tom Brady. I guarantee you would have chose your words wisely. Somebody that's been in journalism for over 40 years knows exactly what to say and how to say it. We ain't talking about an athlete that went into journalism. We talking about somebody that's been in journalism their whole life. He never was an athlete. Not once was he an athlete. So journalism is his thing, just like basketball is my thing. He knows what he's saying and when he's saying it. He's not getting no pass for this. But now everybody on his ass, now you want to come with a lame ass apology. And don't come on TV and say, we can't be insensitive to the situation. You wrote that tweet. Nobody else.
That no doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of the game. This is right in the middle of the vortex of this situation when it was unclear what they were going to do with the game. But I made the point that this late in the season, that with a game of this magnitude, it's very difficult to postpone it. Yet the end of my tweet was, all of which suddenly seems so irrelevant. For the first time in the history of the NFL, my point was, it was all rendered irrelevant by what was happening on the football field in front of all those football players, those gladiators, those warriors. They were shaken to their foundations. So I immediately didn't retweet, I just clarified. And I'll state it again. Nothing is more important than that young man's health. That was the point of my last tweet. I'm sorry if that was misunderstood, but his health is all that matters. Again, everything else is irrelevant. I prayed for him, and I will continue to pray for him. That's what I tweeted at the end of the night. I did pray for Damar and his family soon after it happened, and again before I went to sleep last night. And I didn't sleep much, knowing that we did have a show that we might or might not do. So now the NFL has done exactly the right thing. They have postponed. I have no idea how they're going to make this game up, and I don't care. All that matters now is that that young man who had his NFL life before him remains in critical condition in a Cincinnati hospital. All that matters. Way to go, NFL. Finally, we were all able to rise above the game of football and how important it is in many of our lives and say, no, this is all that matters.
Okay, so there you go. That was his. That was I, and it was contrition, but I don't know that it would qualify as apology. I think he was trying to explain what was going on, but then he was also double backing to make it known that he doesn't care about the outcome of the game, and that the most important thing is the health of the player.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then, and so for context, I do want to show his tweet real quick so that anybody who isn't aware can see. So you see here the original tweet, and to his credit, it's still up there. Usually these people will delete this kind of stuff, but the tweet is still up there, and he tweeted, "No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of the game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant." And as you can see at this point, this tweet has 148 million views, over 4,000 retweets. So viral is an understatement. And you see some of these replies here. Um, you have to be the worst person to have ever held your job in the history of sports. That's an exaggeration. Uh, let's see. One of the worst tweets in sports media history, also an exaggeration, in my opinion. Um, this is the most inconsiderate thing you could have said. We are human beings, not just numbers. You've obviously never stepped foot in a locker room or been a part of a family like this. We are a band of brothers. Get over yourself, man. Praying hard for Damar and his family. Uh, WTF is wrong with you? A man is fighting for his life. Football doesn't effing matter right now. Time to put the phone down. Delete your account. You should be fired and ostracized for the rest of your life for this tweet. And these people are serious when they respond with this stuff. You're a sick individual, real talk. And that was our good buddy Kendrick Perkins who said that. Come on, Skip. This is life versus a game. I'm sorry, but this is your worst take ever. Again, exaggeration. So, like, you get the gist of it, man. People are going in. People really took advantage of an opportunity to seize upon something so that they can be a part of, righteousness, I guess, a righteous cause, to be on the right side of history, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. I don't know. But, yeah, what was your take on, I don't know whether you want to tackle it from what Skip originally tweeted or the reaction or all of it together. But do you have any thoughts on what's going on here?
Yeah, my take is based on what, my initial one at least is based on Skip's initial response to, well, not response, but reaction to the injury and the critical situation bro is in. And it's, if you look back on the tweet, it's the how, it's how can they do that? This late in the season, to me, I understand. He tried to clean it up at the end with the, it's irrelevant,
Right.
but at the same time, you can hear his outrage of ending the game. And, this isn't a sprained ankle. This isn't a, MCL or nothing like that. This is, the guy had a heart attack on the football field. And yeah, nobody has seen this. This is unprecedented. So something unprecedented will happen. A game gets suspended in the middle of a playoff run. So I feel like Skip's initial reaction within that tweet was shock and outrage, like, how y'all gonna clean this up? Even in the midst of his explanation on First Take, or not First Take, or Undisputed, even in the middle of his explanation, he was still saying, I don't know how they're gonna, conclude this, and I don't care. And it's like, nah, you gotta stop it. It's too late to do this level of backtracking. It wasn't in this clip, but also in his reaction this morning, he was saying that somebody from Fox contacted him and said, hey man, your tweet is going dumb right now. You're gonna have to clean this up now. So he made some tweets after that, or a tweet after that, and of course this morning he had to do more mop up duty. But I think that his initial, again, was what made everybody outraged. it seems like everybody's choosing to ignore the part where he said that it's all irrelevant now. And they're sticking to the part of where he was like, how can you postpone a game in the middle of a playoff run? And to me, it's there's two things being said there in that tweet. And I feel like his initial reaction was outrage that the game got canceled. And the cleanup, because he's a media person and knowing how it will sound, is that it's all irrelevant now. And I think that's the cap of all of this. I think people are just reading through with it. And of course, the social justice of social media is going to tear somebody limb from limb, like Skip Bayless, somebody that they don't like in the first place.
Right.
So if they had a reason to do so, which is this case, then they could go in there and with a mob mentality and rip them to shreds for a legitimate reason. So how about you, bro? You siding with Skip? You siding with the mob? Or are you somewhere in between?
I guess I'm somewhere in between. Let me address Skip first. Skip made the mistake of not having a firm enough appreciation for how much of a maelstrom a person can get enveloped in if they do something on social media at the wrong time. Like, Skip, I'm not, most people just kind of, it's either a love or hate thing with him. A lot of people either agree with everything he says or hate everything he says. And I'm somebody who watches him from time to time, and I don't oftentimes think that he is always wrong. I also don't think he's always right. He is someone who's paid to give an opinion, and sometimes opinions are accurate and sometimes they are missing the mark. I don't think that he is as bad as everyone puts him out to be. That's just my personal opinion. However, he is much like Draymond Green is starting to become. He is somebody who takes pride in being a media contrarian, and he takes pride in being somebody who's going to have the courage of their convictions and not waver on his opinions or his takes. And he goes to bat for that. And I think people who drink all of their Kool-Aid to that degree, when you feel like your place in the media world is to be a contrarian and to be the logical information giver no matter what the situation is, when you drink your Kool-Aid that much, as Skip clearly has, because he's been doing this for like damn near 30 years at this point, you underestimate the fact that you can still slip up and do stuff that's going to get you in hot water. And so I think when Skip was tweeting that, he underestimated the fact that people were going to come for him to the degree that they did. He knows he's going to have his detractors, but I don't know that he thought that that was going to get those crazy numbers that it did, because he feels like people appreciate his place in the media world as this contrarian. And it's like, yeah, people might do that, bro, but that don't mean that you can't say something at the wrong time. And this would qualify as the wrong time, because Buddy was like dead on the field until they restarted his heart. So it's not like, this wasn't a torn ACL or a ruptured Achilles. Like, a guy was like literally dead. He had no heartbeat. And so maybe you don't tweet that at that time. But when you're such a narcissist as Skip Bayless is, and he's not the only one, because a lot of these opiners in sports media are narcissists. And when you are a narcissist to the level that he is, you can think that you could tweet something like that and you'll get your usual haters, what he calls haters, but it won't. But it will fly under the guise of Skip Bayless detractors. But otherwise, this is my role, is to be a truth teller. That's what Skip Bayless thinks he is. He believes himself to be a truth teller. So I kind of, if I'm going to psychoanalyze Skip Bayless, that's kind of the way that I would do it. He believes that he's a truth teller. I'm not necessarily excusing what he did per se, but I think that he was able to rationalize it in the way that he rationalizes the rest of what he does on the internet. And, he believes himself to be a truth teller. And so in the moment, he felt as though he was truth telling. And I think he quickly learned that there's no amount of truth telling that can combat doing that at that absolute worst time, because that's the worst time that you could have sent that out there. Now that's Skip Bayless. That's pretty much where it ends for me on him. Now here's the thing with the reaction. So I'll play this game on my phone from time to time. I won't mention the name of the game, but there's this feature in the game where you traverse through a map, and on the map there are nodes, and so the nodes dictate the challenge of that particular fight, and the node will be like, this character gains double the amount of power, or this character, if you hit into their block, they will go unstoppable and they aren't affected by your attacks. Or, if you use a special attack, you'll take incinerate damage. So these nodes apply certain challenges to a particular fight, and it's up to you to be able to kind of find the right kind of counter to that node so that you can get through the fight. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the nodes in this game is called the all or nothing node. And what the all or nothing node is the defender who you're fighting against. They will not use a special attack unless you take them all the way to the limit of their abilities. So if they're on 0, 1, or 2, they're not going to use a special attack. However, if you push them over 3, they're definitely going to use it, and it's going to kill you instantly. Okay. So they call it the all or nothing node. And I feel like these social media reactions, we're living in all or nothing node. Like, there's just no in between. Again, I'm not trying to excuse Skip's tweet necessarily. I'm just trying to understand why it has to be an all or nothing node all the time. So like, and I think who Skip Bayless is has a lot to do with this, right? So if this was somebody who was less polarizing in the media, whose opinions are more agreeable, that person might have gotten backlash anyway, but I don't know that it would have been a crucifixion the way it is with Skip Bayless. But because Skip Bayless has such a history of being a polarizing figure, if he does something that is a faux pas, the level of, persecution is going to be amped up to the point where it does become a crucifixion, in my opinion. And so him being who he is has a lot to do with this, and he has no one to blame but himself for that. And I don't even think it's not like Skip's suffering. He really don't care. I mean, I know he doesn't want to have his livelihood compromised, but I think in the grand scheme of things, as long as he continues to be able to do his show with Shannon, he ain't tripping about whatever backlash he gets. He still has his job. He ain't getting fired or nothing like that. But he has nothing to blame for having to answer to the backlash in the way that he did. Mm-hmm. So again, not excusing it, but part of this reaction is because of who he is. And so it's an all or nothing situation in which it's either innocuous and there's nothing to see here, or it's complete and utter fire and brimstone, and it's the worst take that he's ever had in his whole life, and he needs to be fired, and he's the worst human being in the world, and it's F you, Skip Bayless, and all of this other, in my opinion, overreaction language. And again, I'm not necessarily trying to cast aspersions in either direction. I'm just making an observation. And that's kind of the way social media troll world works nowadays, is all or nothing. It's either mundane, innocuous, and nothing to see here, or it's everything. You need to be fired. You're the worst human being. And like, these were some of the responses to his tweet, was that he's the worst human being in the world, and that he needs to be fired, and that this is his worst take of all time. He's despicable. I mean, I didn't go through all of the responses. You can go through the tweet yourself because it's going to stay up there. Some of this stuff to me was a bit heavy-handed. And again, I don't want anybody to read into my analysis of it being heavy-handed as an excuse for Skip. But it's nevertheless my observation that it's just everything or nothing. And there's a middle ground. And I think, today in our culture where you have to be on the right side of history, and we're dealing with social justice warrior America and hyperliberalism, that you have to swing for the fences and join the crucifixion party, or say nothing at all. And there's got to be some room in the middle. There has to be. And I'm not saying what side on it that you need to be, but there seems to be a lack of reason, unfortunately. And all I'm saying is, can we get back to the point where you can criticize an individual, but we can still also find the reason in what was going on. What happened to that kid on that field is tragic. I hope he pulls through. I really hope he survives. I hope he makes it back so that he can play football again. That was very frightening to watch that. But what Skip tweeted was also not the worst thing ever said or tweeted or communicated in the history of throughout the course of human history. It wasn't. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. It would be nice if we can just get to a point where it isn't all or nothing. I understand the way the world works, and I understand the way the internet is, and I understand the social justice liberal world that we are now fully entrusted in. But it's not going to stop me from saying that we can dial some of it back a little bit so that we can try and be a little more reasonable, because there are human beings throughout the history of the world that I can point to who did worse things than that tweet that Skip sent out, as this as ill-timed and in poor taste as it was. I still wouldn't go so far as to say that he is the most despicable human being in the world.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think the people that were saying that, already felt that way about him. And this tweet in this scenario just gave them, more fuel for the fire, more bullets in the gun.
Yeah.
And when didn't watch the game last night, didn't play fantasy last night, I was chilling. But this morning when I saw now I heard a guy collapsed last night, just being on YouTube. And I was hoping that it was a concussion or something like that. This morning when I saw what happened, from sports doctors that are just watching things that we're all watching but making analysis of stuff, and then they were explaining what it was, and I was like, whoa, bro went through cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
And because when I first heard it, now Skip was watching the game, so I don't know what intel he got as the game was going on and while he tweeted that. But the first thing that popped in my head was a guy collapsed on the field and the game got suspended. I was like, the NFL suspended a game? And this is my initial thoughts. They suspended the game. I was like, isn't it, they're about to go to the playoffs. And so initially I was like, how is the NFL going to make this up? I said the same thing. Because the NFL is a money-making machine. Now, this is before I heard cardiac arrest. As soon as I heard bro went through cardiac arrest, I was like, wait, what? Then the doctor man that was explaining the stuff gave an example of, because he's like a heart guy or brain guy, one or the other. And he was, I think he's a brain dude. And he was saying that it was a guy at the gym working out, pumping iron per usual, but he collapses in the gym. The people give him CPR or whatever, they resuscitate him. But it was like, hey, when you go through that, your brain just shuts off. They still got him to the hospital. They did as much work as they could. The dude ended up being brain dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm hearing all of this stuff, I'm like, whoa, man, like I've never heard of that. And so if I was watching the game and I saw a man collapse, I saw everybody hanging around the guy, I may or may not have heard that the guy, was getting resuscitated. And then the game gets canceled. And now you want to ask how? Now you want to ask how the league's going to, suspend the game? And so that's the part where I'm sure people that were watching that and seeing that, hell, man, I cringed when Tua got knocked out was that a Thursday night? He got knocked out 3 times this year. But I was like, man, this is brutal stuff. But, of course, the game must go on. It's one thing from a concussion, like you said, torn ACL or Achilles,
Yeah.
and it's another thing of getting literally resuscitated on the field. So he saw all of that, then heard the game was canceled, and then tweets how can the league do this?
No. So when he tweeted that, he tweeted it before it came down officially. So like when he tweeted it, it was early on when everybody is still trying to figure out what happened. I don't know if when he tweeted it at that point, it
The game was
became
already
clear that
suspended.
he went into cardiac arrest. But I do know that when he tweeted it in that moment, it hadn't been clear whether the game was going to continue or not. Because it was pretty early on. And so see, that's the thing about when you decide that you're going to be a part of this thing where you have to offer an analysis on social media and join in on that brigade. Like, he felt like that was his obligation to do that at that time. And so even though everybody's still trying to figure out what's going on and everybody's confused and kind of shocked at what they're seeing, him being Skip Bayless, he has to do this Twitter thing because everybody else is giving their opinion. And so he jumps on there and he's like, no way they can't, how can they not finish the game, so on and so forth, as more details are coming out in terms of what's happening. So it's like he did it in real time when he really should have just not done it in that moment, even if he felt as though he was justified in doing so, given the timing. Because of the severity of the situation, he just shouldn't have went there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Point is that I didn't see it. That the thought of the game getting suspended with me knowing no information, just a guy collapsing on the field, I'm like, well, what happened? And then once I found out what happened, I was like, oh, well, yeah, you suspend the game.
Yeah.
And, figure it out. They figured stuff out during COVID. So, but I wasn't watching the game. I didn't see the fall, the collapse, the people rallying around the guy, all this other stuff. I don't know when he tweeted it in the midst of that, but I would say there was too quick of a trigger. But still, it's still in a situation where, man, I was cringing, like I said, when Tua just hit his head on the ground.
Yeah, I actually, truth be told, I cringed more when the Tua thing happened than this one.
Because his hands
because
froze
of
up.
his hands. Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And so, but be that as it may, the whole situation, it was, to me, it was Skip being Skip. It was him putting the NFL first, his job first,
Mm-hmm.
and the life of a human being second or last. And so people are jumping on this because of that. One thing that happens with these mobs is that they take everything personal. And certain situations should be taken personally, even if it's not you. And if that was Skip's son, nephew, loved one on the field arresting, I don't give a damn about tweeting anything. What's going on here? And so the part about this where the mob gets a little too mobby, in situations like this, I get where they're coming from in the context that if this was somebody that you knew and loved, would you still want them to just roll out a football game and roll this stuff out? Like, a guy almost died. Now there was instances where people are paralyzed on the field. Get ambulance come out and everything, take the helmet, the face mask off, and all that, roll them out. That Shazier guy from Pittsburgh, and numerous other people literally getting paralyzed and stuff like that on the field, and they keep playing the game, but nobody died. And where's the line drawn at? Apparently, it's cardiac arrest. And so, but yeah, I just think personally, it was tasteless in a sense. I don't know the timeline, but I know one thing: I would have held off on that until I knew exactly what was going on. And I would not have done that. But Skip being Skip, and gotta, like you said, this is my job. I gotta be out there. I'm a pundit. I gotta weigh in. Blah 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 blah. And even now with his explanation this morning, he was saying all of these things, all of these feel good things, and it's just like that's too little, too late. Now you want to put the young man first. The young man should have went first in your words in the tweet. This game is irrelevant, so I don't care how they figure out that this game is whatever. Not how are you going to suspend the game with all these implications because of what's going on in the field. It's irrelevant. Say that this game is irrelevant because this man's on the field, blah 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 blah, and who cares about playoff implications? That would have went over a lot smoother. And that's why I said it was the how can you end the suspending it. It was how he worded it. And people who know Skip read that as he's putting the league, the game, and all of this stuff ahead of this dude. So let me get on this guy. Now, worst tweet ever, all this other stuff. Yeah. But the criticism and stuff like that, yeah, man. I mean, shoot a man while he's down.
It is what it is. I agree. I think both. See, that's what I'm saying. I think both things are true. I think that, but see, that's the thing. Skip drinks too much of his Kool-Aid. And that's the thing about this damn internet. Like, y'all need to stop drinking so much of your Kool-Aid. Like, that's how you get, and not everybody is like this, but those people who just never think they're wrong with their takes, and Skip's not the only one. Yeah. There's others who do this, who are like this in the media, where they just think they're always right all the time. Like when you drink so much of your Kool-Aid and you really buy into your hype as this is my lane in media, then you think that you're impervious to, criticism of this magnitude. And that's why I think Skip did it, because subconsciously or maybe even consciously, he felt as though he was impervious to this kind of criticism because he believes that his role as Skip Bayless, media pundit, opiner, opinion person, is to say stuff like that. It's to bring the rationale to the discussion, even amidst scary situations like this. And hopefully he figured out that even if that is your place, there are certain times when you just need to fall on the sword and just join the brigade with everybody else who's tweeting thoughts and prayers. Like just do what everybody else is doing and just conform. Skip needs to learn that in extreme situations like that, conformity ain't the worst thing in the world. Just go ahead and conform and do what everybody else is doing, which is thoughts and prayers. I hope he's okay. Thoughts are with his family. The game ain't important, which is what 99% of everyone else was doing. I can say that, but then I can also say, okay, guys, let's relax. He's not committing genocide. He's not actually committing some of the worst acts in human history if you juxtapose his tweet to actual evil in the world. So I think both of those things are true, but I totally get the criticism, but I also get there being a need for reasonable responses to what type of criticism should be levied against someone who does something like that. But, I think both things are true at the same time, and it is what it is. Maybe Skip will fall back from this thing that he has where it's like, this is who I am and my role and courage of my convictions. Like all of that stuff is cool, but in matters of life and death, you might want to not do it even in those situations, because this is what'll happen.
Well, I'll say this, and I'll just say trolls beget trolls. So Skip is a troll.
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah.
And so he's a troll. And so the people that were saying worst comment ever, you should be fired for this and all this other stuff, they're trolls.
Yes, they are.
They're trolls. And was it classless? Yeah, it's up there. It was definitely in bad taste.
Yeah,
it was definitely in bad taste, and enough so that he had to give an apology. An apology this morning. So, but I think that this is just again chickens coming home to roost for him. He's pissed off a lot of people, and his shtick that he's been doing for over the last 30 years people had enough of it, and they can read through his BS. And people who read it, much like myself, read what they read. At least for me, I read that how you gonna suspend games, and then the bro was second. And I know what Skip did there. He tried to clean it up there. And this morning he's trying to clean it up there, acting like he about to fall in tears and all this other stuff. It's like, bro, stop. I was like, stop the cap when you was playing. I was like, stop the cap. I don't want to hear that, man. So, Skip, do your thing, man. He's always going to be doing Skip things. He's going to keep rocking on. He's going to keep agitating Shannon. But I still wish homeboy the best, man. I don't know what the hell. Him, his family, everybody in between, man. That was hard stuff to see. I saw the replay, but that's rough stuff, man. But best to homeboy, man.
Yeah. Best to him, man. I hope he pulls through. Because he was, his heart was stopped, so he wasn't alive. Is people just drink too much. I think my biggest takeaway from this, man, is just people just need to. The internet has become an addiction for people.
Yeah,
and people need to get off that narcotic. To quote Bomani Jones, people need to get off that narcotic. Skip needs to get off that Twitter narcotic, and he ain't the only one. A lot of people need to get off that narcotic. Y'all need to detox off the drug. Like, no, you don't need to jump to Twitter to get on the right side of history every single time. Like, no one's going to burn you at the stake because you didn't give your opinion out on Twitter. No one's even really checking for you like that. You're not that important. Like, seriously.
Well, apparently he is.
In his mind, he is. And that's part of my point, about how he feels about him and the role that he plays in that whole situation. But I just hope that he's all right. I hope the guy's all right. I hope he pulls through. Because that was scary. That was some crazy stuff. And and Skip, whatever. Maybe they'll suspend you or something. You know how they like to do. They'll take you off TV for like 5 days or something. I don't know. We'll see.
If they do that.
Oh boy. All right. So next.